The stars had always watched quietly. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council believed they understood every young species that reached for the sky. They had studied countless civilizations that rose, fought, and fell. To them, Earth was just another small blue planet circling an average sun. They expected it to follow the same path as many before it, a short burst of progress. Then silence, but something unexpected happened. At first, the Council's observers lost contact with their long-range probes near the edge of the Sol system. It was not unusual for machines to fail in deep space, so no one paid much attention. But when a second and then a third probe vanished, unease began to spread through the Council's scientific circles. There were whispers that perhaps the humans had discovered the probes. Others laughed at the idea. Humanity, they said, was still too primitive to even detect them. After all, Earth signals had been quiet for over a century. The Council had not heard a single broadcast, no message, no distress call, nothing. The humans had gone dark. Many believed the species had simply destroyed itself in war or disaster. It was common. Civilizations burned bright before they fell. That was the way of the galaxy. Yet some members of the Council were not convinced. They remembered the humans differently, unpredictable, emotional, and driven. They recalled the brief time when Earth had been part of the Council's Outer Research Alliance. Humans had shared ideas, technology, and even laughter, but the relationship ended badly. Some said the Council had betrayed them. Others claimed the humans were too independent. Whatever the truth, one day Earth withdrew completely. Their colonies vanished from the Council's maps, and their ships stopped answering hails. Then silence. So when those probes began disappearing near the Sol boundary, fear mixed with curiosity. The Council decided to send a small reconnaissance fleet. It was meant to be routine: observe, record, and return. The fleet consisted of 5 light cruisers, equipped with stealth technology and long-range scanners. They entered the system quietly, staying far from the sun and its planets. For several days they drifted unseen, gathering data. All appeared normal. Planets moved along their paths, radiation levels were stable, and no artificial signals were detected. Then, one of the ships picked up something strange. A massive object was moving slowly beyond the orbit of Neptune. At first, the crew thought it was an asteroid or a fragment of a moon, but its trajectory was too controlled. It wasn't drifting, it was navigating. When they focused their sensors, the readings shocked them. The object was larger than any ship they had ever encountered. Energy emissions pulsed from within its hull, steady and powerful like the heartbeat of a star. Its surface reflected almost no light, making it nearly invisible to the naked eye. The captain of the lead cruiser sent the data to the Council instantly. Within hours, the Council chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. They watched the holographic projection of the mysterious object spinning before them. The data stream scrolled beside it, showing impossible power levels and unknown materials. The Council's analysts struggled to explain it. Some thought it was an abandoned alien construct. Others argued it might be a natural phenomenon. But then came the transmission. One of the reconnaissance ships decided to approach closer, against orders. It moved within a few thousand kilometers of the dark object. As its scanners swept over the surface, the ship's system suddenly went offline. Communications, propulsion, everything. For a full minute, the vessel drifted powerless. Then the crew heard a voice. It was calm. It was human. Unidentified vessels, it said. You are entering Terran space. Identify yourselves or leave immediately. The Council chamber fell silent as the recording played. The voice spoke with authority, measured and confident. The representatives could hardly believe what they were hearing. The humans were alive, and they were warning the Council to stay away. The transmission continued. This region is under Terran protection. Any unauthorized approach will be considered a breach of our sovereignty. Then the signal ended. The reconnaissance ship regained power, but its crew was shaken. They backed away, retreating beyond the system's edge. The mysterious object didn't pursue them. It simply drifted, silent and unmoving, as if it had said enough. When the fleet returned, the Council's scientists immediately analyzed every byte of data. The results were unbelievable. The structure was indeed human. Its design bore elements of old Terran engineering, but on a scale beyond imagination. Its dimensions stretched for kilometers. The energy output matched that of small stars. The Council's military experts concluded it was a warship, a Titan-class vessel, far more advanced than anything the Council had ever built. The revelation sent shockwaves through the political world. How had the humans achieved this in isolation? What technologies had they developed while hidden from the galaxy? Some argued that it was impossible for a single species to construct something of that magnitude. Others feared that if humanity had built one, there might be more. Behind closed doors, the council debated. Some suggested contacting Earth directly, offering peace. Others wanted to send a larger fleet to test this Titan. A few even whispered of preemptive strikes, though no one dared voice it publicly. The fear was palpable. For the first time in generations, the council realized there was something in the galaxy they did not understand and could not control. Meanwhile, aboard the Titan-class warship itself, the crew observed quietly. From the darkness near Neptune's orbit, they monitored the departing alien ships. Their systems recorded every scan, every signal. The humans knew the council had found them, and that was exactly what they wanted. For decades, Earth had remained hidden, rebuilding far from the eyes of those who once betrayed them. The Titan was the result of that long silence, a symbol of human resilience and unity. It carried no markings, no flag, only the faint glow of its engines. It was not there to conquer, but to protect. Humanity had learned from its past. The council had treated them as inferior once, had interfered in their affairs and left them to suffer the consequences. Those days were over. The captain of the Titan stood in the observation bay, watching the distant stars. Around them, the warship's vast systems hummed softly. The artificial intelligence that managed navigation reported that the alien ships had retreated beyond detection range. The crew remained calm. There was no celebration, no fear, just quiet purpose. They had shown the galaxy that humanity was still here, and stronger than ever. Back in the council's capital, debates turned into panic. News of the Titan's existence began to leak across the stars. Civilizations that once mocked humans began to fear them. Some wondered if the stories of human courage and stubbornness were true after all. Others remembered how humans had once fought against impossible odds and survived. The council tried to keep the information contained, but it spread quickly. Every world, every fleet, every trading house wanted to know, what else were the humans hiding? Within days, a special emergency meeting was called. Holograms of the Titan flickered across the chamber as analysts explained its power. Plasma fields capable of bending space, reactors generating near-infinite energy, defensive shields beyond comprehension. The Council's generals compared it to their combined fleet strength and found the result terrifying. Even if every major world united, they might not defeat a single Titan. That realization changed everything. For centuries, the Council had believed it was the center of the galaxy's power. But now, standing before the image of humanity's creation, they felt small. The balance had shifted. The silence of Earth was no longer weakness, it had been preparation. In the days that followed, new orders were issued. All exploration missions near the Sol system were canceled. The Council's ships were instructed to avoid Terran space entirely. The official reason given was stability preservation, but everyone knew the truth. The Council was afraid. Still in private, many wondered what humanity would do next. Would they return to the Council seeking peace, or would they demand revenge for the past? No one could say. But one thing was certain. The humans were no longer to be underestimated. Far beyond the Council's reach, the Titan continued its silent watch near the edge of the solar system. From its decks, Earth glowed faintly in the distance, blue, alive, and beautiful. The humans aboard felt pride, not anger. They didn't want war. They wanted safety, respect, and freedom. They had built their strength not to dominate, but to ensure that no one could ever harm their world again. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but a new era had begun. The era when humanity would no longer be the frightened newcomers of the stars. They had become something else, something the Council could never have predicted. They had become the guardians of their own destiny, and out there, in the cold silence of space, the Titan waited, patient, powerful, and unyielding, as the rest of the galaxy finally began to realize that humanity's story was only just beginning. After the encounter near the edge of the solar system, the Council was in shock. The discovery of the human Titan-class warship spread across the galaxy like a storm. For generations, the Council had ruled the stars, guiding young civilizations, enforcing peace, and keeping order. But now their confidence had cracked. Something about that silent, dark ship had unsettled even the oldest members. They had always seen humans as reckless, brave, but unpredictable. Many remembered how humans had once joined the Council, only to leave when things turned bitter. The Council believed humanity had fallen into ruin after isolation. But now it was clear that while the galaxy was busy ignoring them, the humans had been building something powerful, something far beyond anyone's expectations. On Earth, the story was very different. For years, humanity had lived quietly. The scars of the past had taught them painful lessons. When they withdrew from the Council, they made a promise to never be controlled again. Instead of reaching outward to impress others, they looked inward, improving, rebuilding, uniting. Wars had once torn them apart, but isolation brought clarity. Humanity realized that survival would depend on discipline, cooperation, and the ability to learn faster than anyone else. At first, progress was slow. The early years of independence were full of fear and mistrust. The Council had once supplied Earth with technologies and materials, and losing that access had set humanity back. But humans had something the Council never understood: determination born from struggle. They learned to create their own versions of everything. What once required alien support was now made by human hands. They built new industries, new science, and eventually a new kind of strength. As the decades passed, humanity expanded beyond Earth again. Small colonies formed on Mars, Titan, and the moons of Jupiter. But this time there was no dependence on outsiders. Each colony was part of a unified command, the Terran Directorate. Under this system, every discovery, every invention was shared across all worlds. Instead of competing, they cooperated. The result was astonishing. They built faster ships, stronger alloys, smarter machines. Artificial intelligence evolved into something truly advanced, capable not only of computation but of loyalty and empathy. These AIs became partners, not masters. They worked alongside humans, helping design systems and ships that could think, adapt, and defend. The greatest achievement of all was the Titan project. It began as a dream, to create a vessel that could ensure humanity's safety for centuries. A ship so powerful that no one, not even the Council, would dare to threaten Earth again. Thousands of engineers, scientists, and workers dedicated their lives to it. Hidden deep in the shadow of Neptune, away from the galaxy's watchful eyes, the Titan-class warship was born. It was unlike any other creation in human history. The ship stretched for kilometers, a moving city of metal and light. Its heart was a fusion core that glowed brighter than the sun's surface, wrapped in layers of shielding. Its armor was made from a new material, something humans had developed by combining elements unknown to the Council. It could absorb and redirect energy attacks, making the ship nearly indestructible. But what made it truly unique was not its weapons or its size. It was its purpose. The Titan wasn't designed for conquest. It was designed for defense, for deterrence. Humanity didn't want to rule others. They only wanted to ensure they could never be ruled again. When the Titan was completed, it wasn't announced. No parades, no broadcasts, no celebrations. It simply existed, a silent guardian orbiting the far edge of the solar system, always watching. That was how it stayed for years, until the day the Council's probe arrived. When the Titan's sensors detected the foreign signal, its AI instantly recognized it as Council technology. The humans aboard didn't panic. They simply activated observation mode and waited. The probe's data stream was analyzed, decrypted, and stored. Humanity knew the Council would send more. It was only a matter of time before they tried to approach, and when they did, the Titan was ready. The Council's small fleet arrived quietly, but the Titan's sensors saw through their stealth. They tracked every movement, every energy pulse. For a full day, the Titan remained motionless, letting them come closer, testing how far they would go. Finally, when one of the Council ships came too near, the Titan responded with that calm, commanding message: "Unidentified vessels, you are entering Terran space. Identify yourselves or leave immediately." It wasn't said with anger or arrogance. It was said with certainty. Humanity no longer needed to prove itself. It only needed to protect what it had built. Inside the Council chamber, that message echoed for days. The representatives couldn't stop playing it. It wasn't just the words, it was the tone. Humans didn't sound frightened or aggressive. They sounded confident, self-assured. like a civilization that had finally found peace within itself. Meanwhile, deep within human space, the Titan's crew continued their mission. The ship's commander, calm and thoughtful, spent hours reviewing data from the encounter. The crew didn't celebrate. They simply analyzed, planned, and waited. Every human aboard knew that revealing themselves to the Council would change everything. But they also knew it was necessary. The Council had to understand that Earth was not the same as before. For too long, humanity had been underestimated. The Council had treated them as impulsive, emotional, and primitive. They had ignored the human spirit, that strange mix of curiosity and stubbornness that had carried them from caves to the stars. Now that same spirit burned brighter than ever. In the days after the encounter, the Titan's crew held a quiet meeting. They discussed what might come next: retaliation, diplomacy, or silence. The commander's decision was simple. Humanity would not strike first, but it would never bow again. The Titan would stand watch, not as a weapon of war, but as a symbol of what humans could become when they refused to give up. Back on Earth, news of the Council's rediscovery spread through the upper ranks of the Directorate. Many citizens didn't even know the Council still existed. The younger generation had grown up believing humanity was alone among the stars. When they learned that alien civilizations still thrived beyond the borders of Terran space, the reactions were mixed. Some were curious. Some were afraid. Others felt pride. One statement from the Directorate captured the mood of the planet. We left the galaxy's stage not because we were weak, but because we needed to grow strong in silence. Now we return not as servants but as equals. The words traveled across every colony, every station, every ship. Humanity had waited a long time for this moment, the moment to show the galaxy who they had become. The Council, however, was not celebrating. Their fleets began increasing patrols along nearby sectors. Rumors spread that the Council might send diplomats, though others whispered they were preparing for war. But even the Council's most powerful military minds were hesitant. They had seen the Titan's power readings. They had heard the human warning. And deep down they knew that an open conflict could end in disaster. Still, not everyone in the Council was afraid. Some were fascinated. They saw in humanity a reflection of what their own species had lost: courage, ambition, creativity. To them, the humans were not a threat, but a mystery worth understanding. But the problem was, no one could approach Earth without permission, and no one dared to ask twice. In the months that followed, the Council's silence became as heavy as humanity's once was. Neither side moved, neither side spoke. Across the stars, people whispered about the humans and their Titan-class warship. Some called it a myth. Others believed it was the beginning of a new era, one where the Council's dominance would finally end. And through it all, the Titan remained in its orbit, calm and silent. It was more than just a ship. It was a message written in metal and light. A message that said, "We are here. We have endured. We will never kneel again." In time, even the Council would understand that the Titan was not just humanity's greatest creation. It was the proof that the human spirit could not be erased. No matter how much the galaxy tried to forget it, out there in the darkness beyond Neptune, the warship's lights glowed faintly against the stars. Inside, humans watched the vast, endless universe they had once feared. They were not afraid anymore. They were ready, and though no one could hear it, every beat of the Titan's reactors seemed to echo the same quiet truth: humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Council chamber was silent. For the first time in many years, no one was shouting, no one was making long speeches, and no one was laughing. Every representative sat still, watching the same recording over and over, the message from the humans. Unidentified vessels, you are entering Terran space. Identify yourselves or leave immediately. That calm voice echoed through the great hall like a ghost. The same 10 words, repeated endlessly, had frozen the most powerful government in the galaxy. It wasn't just what was said, and it was how it was said. There was no anger, no fear, no arrogance. It was quiet authority, spoken by a species the Council had once thought weak and emotional. The hologram of the Titan-class warship hovered in the middle of the room. Its black surface reflected almost no light, and its sheer size was hard to comprehend. Some called it a monster, others a masterpiece. The Council's top scientists and military officers had spent days analyzing every fragment of data. They found no weakness, no vulnerability, no sign that humanity had made a mistake in its design. The ship was perfect. Too perfect. In private meetings, the Council's generals argued that it was impossible. No species could build such a thing alone, one said. But the data didn't lie. It was real. And it wasn't alone. The readings showed that smaller vessels, perhaps support ships or patrol craft, had been operating near the Titan. Humanity, it seemed, had built a whole new fleet. That realization changed everything for centuries. The Council had acted as the galaxy's authority. They decided which civilizations were allowed to develop advanced weapons, which planets could join trade networks, and which ones were restricted. The rules were strict, and the humans had once agreed to them. But now they had broken every rule in silence. They had done the unthinkable. They had built a weapon of such magnitude that even the combined fleets of the Council might not stand a chance. The fear was immediate and deep. In one corner of the chamber, a group of representatives from older species whispered among themselves. One said softly, "If they could hide this from us, what else have they been hiding?" Another replied, "We should have known. Humans always did move faster than expected." An older member of the Council, whose species had seen wars no one else remembered, leaned back and said in a quiet voice, "We underestimated them. We treated them like children. Now the children have grown up." The word spread quickly. Within days, the entire Council was in chaos. Rumors spread through every colony and spaceport. Traders talked about the Terran war machine that could swallow entire fleets. Soldiers spoke of humans who could disappear for centuries and return stronger than ever. Fear turned to fascination. The galaxy had seen many powerful empires, but none had ever risen so fast after being forgotten. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity watched the Council's reaction through intercepted communications. Every major colony received updates from the Titan's observation systems. The people were not celebrating. They were cautious. They knew the Council too well. Pride would not let them stay silent for long. In the main command center beneath the Titan's surface, the crew monitored every signal from the outer sectors. A few of them spoke quietly about the Council's likely response. Some believed the aliens would try diplomacy. Others feared they would send a larger fleet to test human defenses. The commander listened to every opinion but said very little. Humanity had spent too many years preparing for this moment to panic now. Back in the Council's capital, an emergency session was called. Thousands of representatives gathered again. This time, the Supreme Moderator spoke first. "The situation is delicate," they said carefully. "We must approach this with caution. The humans are not an enemy unless we make them one." But not everyone agreed. Many still remembered the last time humans were part of the Council. The debates, the arguments, the way they refused to follow the rules. Some of the older members blamed humanity for their own troubles. They said Earth had been too ambitious, too proud, too emotional. And now, after all these years, they feared the humans wanted revenge. A heated discussion began. Some demanded immediate contact, an apology, an offer of peace. Others warned that approaching humanity again might be seen as aggression. A few hardliners wanted to prepare for war, claiming the Titan was proof that humans were already planning to attack. No one could agree. The Council's military branch presented their analysis next. A team of experts projected a series of simulations showing potential outcomes if a conflict began. Each simulation ended the same way: massive destruction on both sides, but the humans always survived. Their technology, their strategies, their unpredictability made them nearly impossible to defeat. When the final simulation ended, the chamber fell silent again. The numbers were clear. Even the galaxy's most powerful fleets couldn't guarantee victory. The fear that spread through the Council that day was different from any they had known before. This wasn't the fear of invasion or destruction. It was the fear of losing control. For so long, the Council had seen itself as the guiding hand of the galaxy. Now it realized it was facing something it could not guide, control, or even fully understand. Later that night, in private quarters, several Council members spoke off record. One of them said softly, "Do you remember what they used to say about humans? That they're too emotional, too quick to anger?" Another replied, "Yes, but now they don't even seem angry. That's what scares me the most." Back in Terran space, the Titan floated silently beyond Neptune. Inside, the mood was calm but focused. The crew knew their message had reached the council. They had achieved what they wanted, to make their presence known. Now all they could do was wait. The AI controlling the ship's systems ran quiet scans of the surrounding regions. Every hour it detected faint energy signatures, council probes trying to sneak closer. Each time the Titan's defense grid activated and jammed their signals. The probes were disabled, not destroyed. Humanity didn't want war, but it would not allow spying either. As the days passed, something interesting happened. The longer the council hesitated, the more the galaxy's smaller civilizations began to take notice. Some of them, who had suffered under the council's strict rules, started to see humanity as a symbol of hope, proof that independence was possible. Secret messages began appearing in deep space networks, praising humanity for standing up to the council. The idea of freedom began spreading faster than any fleet could stop it. The council noticed this too, and it only made their fear worse. The humans weren't just powerful, they were inspiring others. The council's intelligence officers tried to predict what humanity would do next. Would they reach out diplomatically? Would they expand further into space? Or would they stay silent again, forcing the galaxy to live in uncertainty? In one secret meeting, the Supreme Moderator asked a simple question. What do the humans want? No one could answer. On the Titan, the humans were asking themselves a similar question. What did they want now? For years, they had prepared to defend their home. But now that they had revealed themselves, what was next? Some believed they should open talks with the council and establish a new peace, one based on respect, not control. Others argued that the council could never be trusted. History had taught them that promises meant nothing without strength. The commander listened to every side but remained calm. We will act when the time is right, he said quietly. For now, let them wonder. The crew understood. Sometimes silence was more powerful than any weapon. Across the galaxy, that silence grew louder. Every species that had once looked down on humanity began to watch them with new eyes. Traders changed their routes to avoid Terran space. Explorers marked the borders of the solar system as forbidden. Even pirates, who feared nothing, refused to go near it. The humans hadn't fired a single shot, but they had already changed the galaxy's balance of power. One night, aboard the Titan, the crew watched the stars from the viewing deck. The vast emptiness stretched endlessly before them, filled with light from distant worlds. No one spoke for a while. Finally, one of them said softly, "They're afraid of us now." The commander replied, "No, they're afraid of what we've become." And he was right. Humanity was no longer the desperate, divided species the council once knew. They had become something new, calm, strong, and united. They had faced the silence of isolation, and instead of fading, they had learned to thrive in it. The council could feel that strength across the stars, and it terrified them. Because deep down they all knew one truth. Power built on fear never lasts, but power built on unity and purpose? That could change the galaxy forever. And as the Titan drifted silently in the blackness of space, the humans aboard it knew their next step would shape not just their future, but the fate of every world that had ever looked to the council for guidance. For now, though, they waited, patient, calm, and ready, because humanity had already sent its message. The galaxy had heard it loud and clear, and somewhere deep in the hearts of every council member a quiet thought began to grow. Maybe the humans weren't the ones who needed guidance anymore. Maybe the galaxy needed them. The days that followed the council's discovery of the Titan were filled with tension across the stars. Every government, every fleet, every intelligence agency in the galaxy wanted to know what the humans would do next. Yet the humans said nothing. No response, no broadcast, no messages. Just silence. That silence made everyone uneasy. It wasn't the silence of fear or weakness. It was the kind that came from strength, from confidence. The kind that made the council's leaders lose sleep at night. Inside the grand halls of the Galactic Council, meetings went on without rest. The chamber that once echoed with laughter and political speeches now felt like a war room. The question that hung in the air was simple. Should they approach the humans, or leave them alone? After weeks of arguments and secret reports, the decision was made. They would try peace. The council didn't want another war in the galaxy. Too many civilizations had fallen in the past, and everyone knew what humans were capable of when pushed. So they prepared a diplomatic mission, the first attempt to contact Earth in over 200 years. The chosen delegates were among the most experienced diplomats in the galaxy. They came from species known for wisdom and patience, not aggression. Their mission was simple: to show goodwill, to talk, and to find a way to rebuild trust. When their ship left the Council's capital, the journey was quiet. Every member of the team felt the same nervousness. They had all seen the recordings of the Titan. They knew its power was beyond anything they had encountered. As they entered the edges of Terran space, the stars around them felt colder. The silence of the void seemed heavier than usual. Their scanners picked up strange readings, faint energy fields that stretched across millions of kilometers. At first, they thought it was natural radiation, but soon they realized the truth: they were being watched. A deep, distant pulse began to echo through their instruments, rhythmic, like the slow heartbeat of something massive. Then, out of the darkness, a shape began to appear. At first, it was just a shadow, darker than the space around it. But as their ship moved closer, the shadow became clearer. It was the Titan. The warship moved slowly, almost gracefully, turning its massive hull toward the small diplomatic vessel. Its size made the Council's ship look like a speck of dust beside a mountain. Lights flickered across the Titan's surface, scanning every detail. The delegates held their breath. Their communication systems activated automatically, sending the Council's greeting code, a universal signal of peace used across thousands of civilizations. For a moment, there was no answer. Then, a voice filled their speakers. "This is the Terran Defense Network. Identify your purpose." The voice was not human, but it sounded calm, neutral, and precise. The diplomats exchanged nervous glances. It was clearly artificial, a machine, but one that spoke with authority. The lead delegate responded carefully. "We come in peace, representing the Galactic Council. We wish to re-establish communication with the people of Earth." There was silence for a few seconds. Then the voice replied, "Your request has been noted. All communications must follow Terran protocol. You will remain stationary while verification is in progress." The delegates did as they were told. They didn't dare move. Outside their window, the Titan's vast hull stretched endlessly, a giant fortress of black metal and blue light. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. Minutes passed. The diplomats sat quietly, each lost in thought. Some wondered if the humans would even listen. Others feared the worst. Then the voice returned. "Terran Command acknowledges your message. You may speak." The lead diplomat took a deep breath and began. They expressed regret for the Council's actions centuries ago. The betrayal, the broken trust, the mistakes made when humanity was still young. They spoke of peace, of cooperation, of starting again. Their voice trembled slightly, but the words were sincere. When the message ended, there was another long silence. The crew waited, hoping for a response. Finally, the voice spoke again, but it wasn't the same one. This time it was human. "You speak of peace now," the voice said slowly. "After turning your backs when we needed you most." "Why now?" The diplomat hesitated, unsure how to answer. "Because we have learned from our past. We wish to rebuild trust." The voice paused before replying. "Trust is earned through actions, not words. The Terran Directorate remembers what was done. We do not forget easily." The tone wasn't angry, but it was firm, calm, controlled, and cold. The delegate tried again. "Humanity has achieved something great. We believe the galaxy can benefit from your wisdom and technology. We want understanding between us." The human voice responded. "Understanding begins with respect. The Council must understand that Terran space is sovereign. No ship enters it without permission. No species interferes with our world. That is the only law we recognize." The words hung in the air like stone. The delegates nodded, realizing that humanity wasn't asking for peace. It was setting terms. The diplomat replied carefully, "We will deliver your message to the Council." The voice softened slightly. "Do that. But remember, the age when others spoke for humanity is over." And with that, the transmission ended. The Titan turned slowly away, returning to its silent patrol near Neptune's orbit. The diplomatic ship was escorted out by smaller Terran drones. No threats, no aggression, just control. Calm, complete control. As they left the system, the delegates couldn't stop thinking about what they had witnessed. One of them finally said, They didn't threaten us, but somehow it feels like they didn't need to. Back in the council's chamber, their report caused another wave of panic. The delegates described everything: the Titan's presence, the machine's control, the human voice that spoke with quiet power. They told the council that the humans were no longer seeking approval or alliance. They were defining their own boundaries. The council had never dealt with anything like this before. Usually, young species begged to join them for protection. But humanity didn't ask for protection. They were the protection for themselves, and maybe one day for others. The most respected member of the council stood slowly and said, "They have returned, but not as we remember them. They have changed. They are beyond us now." No one disagreed. Over the next few days, discussions filled the chamber again. Some wanted to try another diplomatic attempt. Others argued that doing so might appear weak. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. The humans had made their position clear. Terran space was off limits. Across the galaxy, this news spread quickly. Traders altered their routes to avoid human territory. Explorers marked new maps with wide red zones labeled Restricted Terran Authority. Yet something unexpected began to happen. Smaller civilizations, the ones often ignored or controlled by the Council, started sending secret messages toward human space. They weren't threats. They were offers of friendship, respect, and alliance. The idea of a Terran protectorate began circulating in whispers. A place where independent worlds might find safety under human guardianship. Back aboard the Titan, the humans knew all of this. Their sensors picked up every transmission, every rumor. The commander listened in silence, knowing this was the beginning of something larger. Humanity didn't seek empire or control, but they couldn't stop others from seeing them as a new kind of power. Inside the ship's vast control room, the AI spoke quietly to the commander. "Do you wish to respond to these messages?" The commander thought for a long moment, then said, "Not yet. Let the galaxy speak first. We'll answer when it's time." And so the Titan remained silent again, watching, waiting, protecting. Far away, in the council's chambers, the debate continued. But for all their power and pride, every representative knew one thing. The balance of the galaxy had shifted. The humans were no longer the desperate newcomers they once were. They were something far greater now, calm, disciplined, and untouchable. And the council, once so sure of its own control, now moved carefully in their shadow. The diplomats had described it best in their final report. They didn't show anger. They didn't show mercy. They simply showed us what power looks like when it no longer needs to shout. And that truth echoed through the stars, a silent reminder that the humans had returned, not as students of the galaxy, but as its quiet guardians. The Council's fear was no longer about war. It was about realization, that maybe, just maybe, humanity had become everything the galaxy once hoped to be, and everything it could never truly understand. And as the Titan continued its endless orbit beyond Neptune, one thought lingered in every corner of the cosmos. The humans are watching. The galaxy had never been this quiet. The news of the Titan-class warship and humanity's return had spread across hundreds of star systems, yet no one dared approach Terran space. Traders whispered its name, explorers altered their paths, and even pirate fleets avoided the solar system entirely. Humans had returned, not with weapons blazing, but with presence and control that spoke louder than any war. Inside the Council, fear had grown into a mixture of confusion and awe. For centuries they had believed in their dominance, in their ability to control the galaxy's civilizations. They had expected obedience, not resistance, and certainly not strength, from a species they had once dismissed. Now their fleets and diplomats moved cautiously. Every strategy they discussed carried a shadow of doubt. Could their forces withstand the Titan? Could they even provoke it without disaster? In private chambers, generals argued over the ship's capabilities. Sensor readings showed energy outputs beyond imagination. Its hull was layered with new alloys that could absorb and redirect the most powerful energy attacks. Its engines could propel it across the solar system faster than any Council ship. Its defensive systems were unparalleled. Every calculation ended with the same conclusion. The Titan could destroy fleets before they could even react. This was not just a ship. It was a message. Humanity had proven that it no longer needed anyone's permission to exist. It was a declaration of independence, of power, and of intelligence grown far beyond the Council's expectations. Back aboard the Titan, the humans were not celebrating. Their mission had never been to terrify or dominate. They had prepared for protection, for survival. For centuries they had worked quietly, rebuilding their civilizations, learning from past mistakes, and preparing to defend their home. The Titan was the pinnacle of those efforts, a guardian of Terran space and the symbol of their strength. When they had made contact with the Council's diplomats, humanity had spoken with authority but without anger. Their words were calm, precise, and deliberate. Terran space is sovereign. No ship enters without permission. It was a statement, not a threat, but it carried the weight of reality. The Council had learned that humans could back their words with action, an action that no one could ignore. For the first time in history, the Council was forced to reconsider its place in the galaxy. They realized that humanity's return had changed the balance of power. It was not just technology or fleets that made humans formidable. It was their determination, their unity, and their understanding of strategy and patience. They had waited. They had learned. And now they had shown the galaxy that they were no longer a species to be underestimated. The Council's top scientists continued to analyze the Titan, trying to find weaknesses. They examined every data stream, every sensor reading, every calculation of energy output, but nothing indicated a flaw. Every attempt to predict how the humans would respond to aggression failed. Simulations ended in the same result: human victory. The more the Council tried to plan, the clearer it became that they had underestimated humanity for far too long. Meanwhile, the smaller civilizations began to take notice. Many of them had suffered under the Council's strict rules, restricted in their trade, their exploration, and even their cultural growth. Now they looked at humanity and saw not a threat, but hope. If humans could rise quietly, rebuild, and assert their independence without falling to war or destruction, perhaps others could too. Whispers of Terran guardianship spread in secret across star systems. Traders spoke of safety within Terran space. Planets that had once trembled at the Council's decisions began to wonder. Could humanity offer protection instead of control? Could they become allies rather than overseers? On the Titan, the humans monitored every communication. They did not intervene. They watched, analyzed, and waited. The commander understood that this was a delicate moment. Their presence alone was changing the galaxy, shaping perceptions and teaching lessons without a single shot fired. This was as powerful as any weapon they could deploy. Aboard the ship, the AI analyzed Council behavior patterns and intercepted transmissions. They are hesitant, it noted in its calm voice. They recognize our capability, but they do not understand our intentions. The commander nodded. That is enough for now. Let them think we are only a warning. Let them imagine the consequences of action. We do not need to provoke them, the crew agreed. Their mission was not conquest. It was protection and preparation. They understood that true strength was not measured by the weapons they carried, but by the discipline with which they used them. Humanity had grown strong in silence, and now their silence was louder than the Council's fleets. In the Council's chambers, fear began to mix with something else: respect. The older members remembered the humans when they were young and reckless, and they compared them to what they had become. Some admitted quietly that humans had surpassed their expectations. Others worried that the galaxy might never be able to challenge them. The most telling moment came during a simulation briefing. Council generals displayed a scenario where multiple fleets entered Terran space. Every fleet was destroyed or repelled with minimal human casualties. The data was clear and undeniable. The Council was forced to consider a new reality. Humans were capable of defending themselves and their space without ever needing to fight. Across the galaxy, the rumors of Terran strength continued to spread. Some civilizations began to quietly send messages requesting alliances or protection. Even species that had once been hostile or indifferent now approached humanity cautiously, hoping for favor or safety. The humans had not asked for this, but their actions inspired trust and awe. Back on the Titan, the humans discussed their next steps. Some suggested reaching out to certain civilizations to establish alliances. Others believed they should remain silent, letting the galaxy come to them. The commander listened to all opinions but remained calm. "We will act only when necessary," he said. "For now, let the galaxy adjust to reality. Our presence is enough." The AI confirmed the plan. Silence will maintain control and avoid unnecessary conflict. Observation alone is sufficient to influence behavior. Days turned into weeks and the galaxy slowly adapted. The Council ordered all fleets to withdraw from Terran space. They issued warnings to smaller civilizations to respect the boundaries set by the humans. The message was clear. The humans had returned and they were no longer to be ignored. Even with this new balance of power, humanity maintained humility. The Titan patrolled quietly, scanning the edges of the system, ensuring that no threats approached. Its crew remained disciplined, focused on their mission. They had proven their strength, and now it was time to maintain it without arrogance. One day, a Council probe entered Terran space without authorization. The Titan's sensors detected it instantly. Instead of destroying the probe, the ship disabled its systems remotely, sending it back with a message. Unauthorized entry detected. Leave Terran space immediately. No harm will come to you if this directive is followed. This action demonstrated a principle humans had learned over centuries. Strength was most effective when paired with restraint. The galaxy watched the probe return, unharmed but completely powerless, and the story spread quickly. Humanity did not attack. Humanity did not kill. Yet the lesson was clear. They could. The Council realized something important. Humans were not like other species they had controlled or monitored. They were intelligent, disciplined, patient, and capable of action when necessary. They did not strike for pride, vengeance, or conquest. They struck to protect, to maintain order, and to ensure their survival. The fear in the Council's halls changed to cautious admiration. Even the most hardened generals began to respect the humans' capabilities. They recognized that Earth had not only survived isolation, but had transformed that isolation into power, discipline, and clarity. The humans had learned from their past mistakes and were now unbreakable. For the first time in centuries, the Council understood that their control over the galaxy was no longer absolute. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with, not because of aggression but because of preparation, unity, and intelligence. On the Titan, the humans continued their quiet patrols. The crew moved efficiently, performing routine checks and analyzing incoming data. They had shown the galaxy their strength and restraint. Now their focus was on vigilance, ensuring that Terran space remained secure while letting the galaxy adjust to this new reality. The AI noted, observation and restraint continue to influence behavior effectively. Galaxy-wide fear has been replaced with cautious respect. No intervention is currently required. The commander nodded. Let it remain this way. Our actions speak louder than words. Let the galaxy remember what humans can do, not through violence but through presence. And so the Titan drifted silently among the stars, a beacon of human strength and wisdom. Across the galaxy, civilizations watched, fleets retreated, and traders rerouted. The humans had achieved something extraordinary. They had regained control of their destiny without firing a single shot. The lesson was simple yet profound. Power without restraint is dangerous, but power with purpose is unstoppable. And far beyond the edges of the Council's influence, the galaxy whispered a truth it could no longer deny. Humanity had returned not to conquer, not to rule, but the galaxy had begun to change quietly. After the first encounter with the Titan-class warship, no one spoke of Earth the same way. The Council, once confident in its control, moved cautiously. Traders, explorers, and even warriors learned to respect Terran space. The humans had returned not with a scream or an army, but with a presence so solid, so disciplined, that fear and admiration had replaced curiosity and doubt. Inside the Titan, the crew moved with calm efficiency. They were no longer in the testing phase, nor were they exploring unknown systems for resources. Their mission had evolved into something far more important: maintaining vigilance, ensuring peace within their own space, and preparing for any unexpected threat. Every crew member knew that the galaxy was watching, and that their actions would define humanity's reputation for centuries to come. The AI on board continuously analyzed incoming transmissions. Signals from smaller civilizations seeking alliances, traders asking for protection, even whispers of respect from species once hostile. All of it flowed through the ship's systems. The AI presented the data with calm precision. Influence is expanding, it said. Fear is diminishing. Respect and curiosity are increasing. The commander nodded, looking out across the vast expanse of space. Let it happen naturally. Let the galaxy see what we do and who we are without interference. We are not here to control, only to protect. That is enough. For the first time since the Titan had left Earth's orbit, a sense of accomplishment settled over the crew. Not pride, but clarity. Humanity had proven something crucial, that survival, strength, and moral purpose could coexist. The Titan was not just a weapon. It was a statement of what humanity had become: resilient, intelligent, disciplined, and united. Meanwhile, the Council attempted to regroup. Messages were sent to distant colonies, orders given to fleets, and reports compiled from every observation post. Yet each plan for intervention, each simulation for attack ended in the same conclusion. Any attempt to challenge the Titan would be catastrophic. The humans were simply too advanced, too prepared, too cohesive. Within the Council, a quiet debate emerged. The younger members, who had grown up hearing tales of humanity as weak, now saw them in a new light. Some even argued that the galaxy should approach Earth to learn from them rather than fear them. The older members were skeptical, still holding to their pride. But even they could not ignore the facts. In the months that followed, the Council decided to send a small delegation, not of diplomats, but of observers. They would monitor Terran space, report back, and try to understand what had changed. But even they approached with caution, never crossing the invisible boundary the Titan had established. The humans noticed the subtle movements, of course. Their sensors detected every probe, every attempt to scan their systems, but they remained calm. The Titan did not fire weapons or send threats. It simply observed, a silent guardian, demonstrating that true power did not need to shout. Across the galaxy, smaller civilizations began to send messages to Earth. Some sought protection, others sought knowledge. They had no illusions about humanity's willingness to conquer. They understood that humans had demonstrated something else entirely. A species that was strong enough to defend itself, disciplined enough to restrain its power, and intelligent enough to make decisions without unnecessary violence. On the Titan, the crew began evaluating these communications. Some suggested reaching out directly, offering guidance and alliances. Others argued for caution, believing that humanity's reputation as independent and strong should remain intact. The commander listened to every perspective. "We will act when necessary, but not before," he said. "The galaxy is learning. We are showing them our presence, not forcing our will." This philosophy of restraint paired with power became the core of humanity's new role. It was a lesson learned from centuries of struggle, from isolation, from past wars, from mistakes that had once nearly destroyed them. The Titan, massive and silent, represented that lesson to the entire galaxy. Over time, the Council began to accept this new reality. They realized that the humans were not a threat in the traditional sense. They were different. They were disciplined, patient, and united. Any aggression would meet resistance beyond expectation. But there was also an opportunity to engage with a species that had learned from its history and could now serve as a stabilizing force in the galaxy. The humans, however, did not seek recognition or alliance for its own sake. They had built the Titan to protect their home and their people. Any expansion of influence would come from necessity, not ambition. This distinction was crucial, and it would define humanity's reputation for generations. One quiet day aboard the Titan, the commander gathered the senior crew. "We have shown the galaxy what we are capable of," he said. "Now we must ensure that our actions reflect our values. We are strong, yes, but we are also responsible. Let that be our legacy." The crew nodded. They understood that their role had changed. Humanity was no longer just surviving. It was shaping the galaxy, silently, firmly, and wisely. The AI chimed in, reporting intercepted signals from Council observers. They are adjusting their expectations. Their fleets are no longer attempting aggressive maneuvers. Communications indicate cautious respect. Small civilizations continue to request contact and cooperation. "Good," the commander replied. "Let them come to us. We do not need to chase them. Our presence alone is enough to create stability." This approach, quiet but effective, gradually transformed Terran space into a place of both mystery and respect. Traders followed approved routes, knowing that violations would be met with calculated response. Explorers documented the borders, observing from safe distances. Even hostile forces learned that intrusion was pointless. The Titan could neutralize any threat without violence, proving that restraint could be as powerful as firepower. The Council slowly changed its strategy. Instead of trying to dominate, they began observing, learning, and adapting. They realized that humanity's strength was not a challenge to their authority, but a model for stability. Some of the younger members even suggested engaging with Earth for guidance, though traditionalists remained wary. In the years that followed, humanity continued its quiet patrols. The Titan remained vigilant near the edges of Terran space, while smaller ships monitored traffic and ensured security. Communication channels were open, but only when necessary. Humanity's message to the galaxy was clear: respect Terran space, understand our values, and trust that we act for protection, not conquest. Gradually, the fear that had once gripped the galaxy gave way to something else: admiration, curiosity, and a cautious desire to learn. Civilizations that had once been intimidated by the Council now looked at humanity with a mixture of hope and awe. They realized that strength combined with wisdom could change everything. Back aboard the Titan, the crew often reflected on the journey. They had witnessed the galaxy's perception shift in just a few short months. Humanity had returned stronger than anyone could have imagined, not through aggression but through preparation, unity, and deliberate action. The commander addressed the crew one evening as the stars stretched endlessly beyond the observation deck. "We have done what many thought impossible, but this is only the beginning. Our duty is to protect, to guide when needed, and to show that power without restraint is meaningless. Humanity is back, and we will not falter." The crew understood. They had seen history repeat itself, learned from past mistakes, and built something enduring. They were no longer just explorers, soldiers, or scientists. They were guardians of a new era, and so the Titan drifted silently among the stars, massive and unyielding. Its presence reshaped the galaxy, not with force but with authority, discipline, and vision. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never again view them as weak or controllable. As centuries passed, the lessons of that first encounter would be remembered. The Council would speak of the humans not as rebels, not as threats, but as equals, beings who had taken their history, learned from it, and transformed their weaknesses into strength. The galaxy, once dominated by fear and rules, slowly adapted to a new reality. The humans had taught a profound lesson: survival, power, and wisdom could coexist. Aggression was not required to earn respect. Discipline and purpose could accomplish more than fleets of warships ever could. And through it all, the Titan remained, a silent sentinel. Its reactors glowed faintly in the darkness of space, a reminder that humanity had returned, not to conquer, not to intimidate, but to endure. Strong, united, and watchful. The message was simple and timeless. Humanity had learned from its past, mastered its present, and shaped the future. The galaxy had seen the strength of humans, and no one would ever forget it.